are back in France, just a few kilometres away from the Swiss border, for the very last MXGP of the season. In MXGP, the 2017 World Champion was crowned in Assen. Tony Cairoli has now got his 9th world title under his belt, only one less than Stefan Everts. But this weekend is all about the MX2 young guns. Either Jonas or Siwa will claim the title. 50 points on the table, 39 points separate the Swiss and the Latvian, so place your bets now. Welcome to Villars-sous-École for the MXGP of Pays de Montbeliard.
Valentin Guillot and Hunter Lawrence take us for a ride around Villars-sous-École. It's a downhill start straight into a 180 right, passing the foxhole shot line midway through the turn. And then back in the opposite direction, past pit lane immediately, into turn 2. You can see there are 2 choices of lines through there, over the single or around the outside. 2 rollers, and then into this little floating jump, takes us through turn 3, into the sweeping left, and then up the hill for the first time, over a double onto a plateau, continuing to charge all the way to the top, through a sweeping right, and again, just different lines through there. You can double in from the inside. Either way, this whole straight, a series of step down, step ups, and tabletops. And as the weekend goes on, there'll be a choice of lines through there as well. Dropping downhill underneath the Monster Energy banner, steep descent, steeper than it looks, braking hard into a tight 180 right. Heading back uphill in the opposite direction, jumping over a small double before hitting the Tag Heuer hip jump, slows things down a little bit. A nice little step down onto this plateau, turning left. Second gear, third gear out of there, over the Monster Energy tabletop, again plunging downhill into one of the slowest corners on the track. Easy on the gas out of there, the stone will really start to show through. Then uphill over the city step up into this right-hander. Again, pretty slow corner on the racetrack. Dropping down, and to slow things down a little bit, a short tabletop into this right in front of the main fans through a series of waves. Important to get good drive through there before hitting this jump here, the Ippon tabletop jump, and then this is the final turn. Takes the riders uphill towards the Monster Energy finish line jump. And then as they land on the plateau, it's back down the start straight to start another lap. Under muddy conditions, MX2 Race 1 got off to an explosive start with the championship leader, Paul Jonas, grabbing his 10th foxhole shot of the year. But by the time he reached turn 2, he was down on the deck. Instead, it was Thomas Covington who led the way. Jeremy Seewer was in second, but was challenging with the Australian, Jed Beaton. Eventually, the Swiss rider went through and started to give chase to race leader Thomas Covington on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna. The two riders were never more than 1 or 2 seconds apart as Paul Jonas charged his way through the field. By the time he caught his young teammate Jorge Prado, he'd found his way into 15th. The young Spaniard was having a nightmare of a day here in race 1. Jed Beaton, though, was in good form. He was in 4th for the first half of the race. Jorge Prado was wondering what on earth he was doing in France on a day like today. He eventually came home in 14th. Riding like the championship leader, Paul Jonas eventually caught Brian Bogus, found his way up towards the top end of the field. He made a move on the 189 and eventually came home in 5th position. Thomas Kjær-Olsen wasn't so fortunate. He fell from 3rd. And then later on in the race, he eventually came home in 7th. 3rd place, though, guaranteed in the MX2 title fight. In the closing stages of the race, Covington lapped the championship leader. And then he fell, but he had a 44-second lead over Jeremy Seewer on the Suzuki World MX2 machine. Barring any mistakes, it looked like the championship was going to go the way of the Latvian. Jeremy Seewer could do no more than what he was already doing in second. He did make 1 or 2 mistakes, though, in the closing stages, but it was race win number 5 of the season for Thomas Covington on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna. Jonas crossed the line in 5th, and he was crowned the FIM MX2 Motocross World Champion for 2017. With the championship decided and with Paul Jonas riding the number 1 on the front of his Red Bull KTM, the shackles were off. This one was about personal pride. Thomas Covington grabbed the foxhole shot for the 8th time this year, but sticky conditions meant riders were getting caught out in the early stages of the race. Brian Bogus initially started 2nd, Hunter Lawrence 3rd, but it wasn't long before he was making his way towards the front. Covington got passed briefly by Brian Bogus, but found his way back past the HSF Logistics Motorsport rider. Seewer was 3rd on the number 91. A major mistake from Bogus, almost saw him on the deck, but he managed to salvage it. As up front, Hunter Lawrence charged his way into the lead and started to pull clear as everybody else struggled in the conditions. Bogus made a great move on Covington. Covington working his way from 1st to 4th in the space of just a couple of laps. Seewer also picking off the American, who just took a few laps to get going in race 2. The track started to dry out in 1 or 2 places. The rain held off. Seewer, all of a sudden, was on the charge. Stephen Rubini, though, on the Monster Energy Kawasaki, charged downhill past Magne Klingsheim and Darian Sinai to get himself into 12th. Eventually, he came home in 9th. A good ride for the Frenchman. Second half of the race, and Thomas Covington was back past Brian Bogus as Paul Jonas carved his way from 10th to an eventual 3rd. Jed Beaton was having another fantastic ride. He had 1 or 2 moments, though, on the HRC Honda. Eventually came through in fourth until Jonas found his way past with 2 laps to go. The Australian was then in fifth, but a mistake from Siwa meant he fell to fifth. Jonas took over third, Beaton came home fourth, but it was a first ever race win for Hunter Lawrence and Suzuki World MX2. The overall though belonged to Thomas Covington. Hunter Lawrence was second, Jed Beaton third, a non-European rider presence on the MX2 podium. Championship though belonged to Paul Jonas, Jeremy Siwa second, Thomas Kjær Olsen third.
It's been my dream since I started riding, so you know I feel really good. I'm really happy, but it's been a long way. You know, I've been working really hard, and you know if I wouldn't believe that I can be a world champion one day, I wouldn't do that. Starting the season, I felt that I was able to win the title. You know, I felt really strong, but like, let's say from the middle of the season, you know, I could see the light in the end of the tunnel a little bit, you know, and then since that time I've been really focused on winning the title. To see everyone happy, you know, and that's just also for the team. It's why we do that, you know, why I work so hard. Indonesia was my worst memory of this year because I was leading in the first race and got stuck in the mud, and the second race I had the problems with the bikes, so not so many points in that race, but you know, everything happens for a reason. In a week, I need to sit down and think about everything and think what we need to do a little bit different, what we need to change for the next season, and then make decisions, and then just have again a great off season, and then for the next season try to change that number 7 here to number 8.
In terms of dietary, physical or motorcycle training, there is a big logistical team behind us who helps us to achieve good results. I still have the opportunity to train physically, running or cycling, and to share these difficult moments with them. The season finishes in September, and in October we start working again because it takes time, especially the physical preparation. But the most important thing is to learn to know each other, the athlete, but also the man behind. When we're all confident and we work together in the same direction, we can achieve extraordinary goals. Thanks to all the people who work and love my training, we can give that little extra to make all the difference at the end.
I'm also the CEO of CEL Sports Event Logistics, which is an official transport company and official travel agency in motocross. So we decided as CEL to support and to create the Lomai training project. So that's something which is very important. So CEL is helping and financing the majority of the project. So we want to give something back to motocross because motocross is giving quite a lot to us. We decided to do something to help young riders to succeed in motocross, explain to them how to train and what to do and how to do it. We are achieving some very good results. Just think about in the beginning of the season after Indonesia, we were red plate and we were leading the World Championship, and we are still in a very good position. So we are very, very happy about the result.
With the title already decided in MXGP 1 week ago, all that was left to play for were the minor positions, as Jeffrey Hurling's guaranteed second and Gauthier Paulin third. But it was Max Anstey with his second Foxhole shot of the year. Just behind them though, Tano Leok, Max Nagel, Kevin Strybos went down. So too did the two Wilvo Yamahas of Tonus and Simpson, and Bobashev as well at turn 2 as Tim Geiser led for HRC. Towards the end of the first lap, Roman Fevre on the Monster Energy Yamaha carved his way past the Red Bull KTM of Glenn Koldenoff to get himself into second. Jeremy Van Horbik was having a great ride in 5th place. He was caught by Gauthier Paulin, and as the Frenchman was about to find his way past the Belgian, Van Horbik fell. He was lucky to escape injury. Eventually picked himself up, but would come home in 8th place. Jeffrey Hurlings took a little while to get going, but a mistake from Gauthier Paulin on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna saw the bullet go through into 5th. He latched on to his teammate Glenn Koldenoff, made that move to go 4th, and then started to charge after number 99, Max Anstey. That was the move of the day. Jeffrey Hurlings scythed his way down the inside of Anstey, pushed the Brit into 4th, but by then, Geiser and Fevre were too far gone. Tony Cairoli didn't feel like playing much this weekend. He eventually came home in 9th position and was lapped by the frontrunners in race 1. Despite getting close on a number of occasions, Roman Fevre could not seal the deal. And Tim Geiser won for the 8th time in MXGP Race 1. Fevre was second, Hurlings was third. Romain Febvre spun up immediately off the mesh, messed up his chances of a good start in MXGP Race 2. Tony Cairoli looked a little bit more interested, but it was Jeffrey Herlings for the first time in 2017 who grabbed the Fox hole shot. On a drying circuit, Max Anstey though soon found his way into the lead, ahead of Jeffrey Herlings and Tim Geiser, who made that pass on his teammate Evgeny Bobashev. By the end of the lap, Arno Tonis on the number 4 Wilvo Yamaha was into 4th. Tony Cairoli was challenging in 5th. Cairoli did make the move stick, but then shortly after that, the 9-time champ slipped off, and eventually he would pull out of the race around about the midway point. Romain Febvre jostled for position on his way through. He made that move on Koldenhoff to get himself into 7th as Christophe Charlier looked on. Jeffrey Herlings got alongside Max Anstey, but the Brit was going in pursuit of his first ever race win in MXGP. Tony Cairoli, a shadow of himself a week ago in Assen when he claimed that title, decided to call it a day as Tonis found his way past Bobashev to get himself into 5th. That's where the Wilvo Yamaha would stay as Bobashev eventually fell back to 23rd. A rare mistake from Jeffrey Herlings gave Max Anstey a 7-second advantage at the head of the field. Geiser was still circulating in 3rd and at that stage of the race was still in control of the overall Grand Prix classification, but Herlings dug deep like the 3-time MX2 world champion he is, and eventually, with 3 laps to go, made this move on Anstey. Anstey would not give up the fight though, and pushed Herlings all the way to the checkered flag. It was Herlings though who was victorious for the 12th time this season, ahead of Anstey, Geiser, Febvre and Tonis. The overall belonged to Jeffrey Herlings, his 6th win of the year, his 67th Grand Prix victory. Geiser was 2nd, Anstey on the podium for the 3rd time this year in 3rd. But Tony Cairoli, your world champion in MXGP in 2017. Jeffrey Herlings 2nd and Gauthier Paulin 3rd. But a great end to the season for Max Anstey. An even better one for Jeffrey Herlings. The next time we see these guys will be at the FIM Monster Energy Motocross of Nations, presented by Fiat Professional.
The first title is always the most special because you dream when you're a little kid, you know, that one day you try to become a world champion, and then when you arrive, you reach the objective, you know, you are very, very emotional and all the sacrifice that you do during your career until there, and then you're world champion, so it's always amazing, you know, the first time. 2007 was one of my best years because I won a lot on that year, and it was great battles with Christophe Purcell. At the first year we won the title, so it was very special, and we were very proud about that. We take everybody with the Decarli team to the MXGP class with the KTM, and we choose to move with the new bike, which was the 350, and we make so many good memories, you know, until 2014 when we won the last title with the KTM 350. It was just a relief to be back on top because I know my possibilities. We start very strong, and we win this title.
Another incredible season we've had here in 2017. Arriving in Villars-sous-École, we already knew the MXGP winner. Tony Cairoli clinched his 9th World Championship title in Assen last weekend. Isn't that right, Tony? Good. But the suspense has gone down to the very last round in the MX2 class. Pauls Jonas took his first MX2 World Championship title, giving the Red Bull KTM factory racing team the perfect end to the season, with 4 titles: the MXGP and MX2 Riders titles and the 2 manufacturers titles. But the season is not over just yet. The last race of the year is just around the corner. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be rendezvousing in the UK in Montbeliard Basin for the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations, presented by Fiat Professional. We'll see you then.